Manchester United have a clear problem with their defence. I think we've all spoken about it. Structurally, there's some problems in the midfield, in the defence. There's personnel missing. United definitely have issues from a defensive point of view. Conceding 11 goals in 7 Premier League games isn't really acceptable. However, I actually think that Erik ten Hag has a bigger problem, and that comes in his attack. Because if we quickly go back to that league table, 7 goals scored in 7 games is horrendous. That is not acceptable for a team of Manchester United's level, not when you're looking at some of those other teams in the league and the numbers that they're producing. So today I want to talk about what is going wrong for Ten Hag's side on the ball, in possession. And we're not even going to talk about structure too much here, we're going to talk about individuals, personnel, because United have a lot of issues on the ball. And in a similar way to what we talk about defensively, it is a team issue. This isn't just the front line aren't performing, or just the midfield, or just the defence. This is a team issue. It runs right through the squad. But United simply aren't very good at attacking, so let's look at why.
So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFifa for 10% off when you order.
So like I've mentioned a couple of times already, this is a team problem, and it starts in the defence, where United certainly aren't being helped by the current injuries. Luke Shaw at left back is one of United's most progressive players in the squad, and he just isn't available at the moment. Lisandro Martinez, one of Manchester United's most important technical but also progressive players, currently unavailable. United do have problems from a personnel point of view. This is having a knock-on effect onto the first team, because basically, there just isn't the ball progression at the back which is currently needed. Sofian Amrabat is trying his best from left back, although it's obviously a makeshift role, and it's not really where you want him. We'll come on to that later. But the centre-backs in particular just aren't very good at progressing the ball, particularly in the case of Victor Lindelof. As we can see in these graphics here, if you look at Rafael Varane and Lisandro Martinez, you can see that their most frequent area of pass is actually a progressive pass, moving the ball forward. Whereas if you look at where Lindelof most frequently passes in the middle third, it's about 5 yards to his right hand side to his right centre back. This is straight away a problem for United, because it means that from the base, from the structure, from the foundation of the team, they have an inability to move the ball forward. Because whilst Rafael Varane is actually doing it pretty well at the moment, we know that this isn't his strength either. So what we have is that when teams sit back, like Crystal Palace did for example, when teams sit back, United have an inability to progress the ball forward, because the centre-backs simply aren't capable of doing it. Now, how do you fix this problem is the first question. Well, one, with serious coaching. Someone like Victor Lindelof has to do better. It's not up to standard. He's never been the most progressive centre-back in the world, but he's always been half decent on the ball. This year, he has seen a major drop-off in his passing ability, so that needs to be addressed. You could also address it with a change of personnel. I personally like the idea of Harry Maguire coming into the side. I know that won't be the most popular idea because people like to clown Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire is a very good player on the ball. Not necessarily when pressed, but when given time, which we're seeing for United at the moment because of Onana's influence. Maguire is so good on the ball, it's unbelievable. We can go to this little pass map here from his game in the Cup against Crystal Palace last week. We can see how good he is at moving the ball forward, but also switching the play. So that is certainly an area where United are struggling on the ball. The centre-backs also aren't being helped by the midfielders, and again, it's a bit of a personnel issue, but on this occasion it isn't an injury problem. Currently United have their main 3 midfielders fit and available, but the problem is the profile of what United have here. So initially you've got Casemiro, who we know is a big problem in possession. He does a lot for this side, he's an important player, he's got goals and assists this season. But in terms of in possession, in the deep phase, or even in the middle phase of the pitch, he just gives the ball away too much. But on top of that, he doesn't make himself available. That's my biggest problem with Casemiro. He doesn't make himself available for the pass on a regular enough basis for a deep midfielder at a team like United who want to be a top side. He doesn't make himself available. The other problem I have is that he is never aware of what is around him. He doesn't scan. Now, scanning is basically, before you receive the ball, you're going to check your shoulder, and see what's around you, so that when you receive the pass, you know exactly what to expect. You kind of have a picture of the pitch already in your head. Casemiro doesn't have that. So at the moment, he is constantly getting pickpocketed in these areas, and it's causing problems for United. And we're going to look at that in a live stream tomorrow. But also, the other problem for Casemiro is that he just forces the ball forward far too much. He is far too direct, far too intent on getting the ball forward within 2 touches pretty much every time he receives possession. Now, when it works, it really, really works. United move the ball forward quickly and really hurt teams. But a lot of the time, which is the case at the moment, his passing isn't really on point at the moment. Because he's trying these forward passes are not coming off. United are just surrendering possession. You've also got the problem of profile in the midfield here, that there is no true dictator of play. There is no player here who wants to have around 100 touches and control the tempo. Perhaps if United get some left backs back in the side, Sofyan Amrabat could be that solution. Get him in the midfield, I think we would see United changing, because he is someone that would instantly dictate the tempo. But again, currently we're not seeing that. Instead what we're seeing is players which want to push forward, make runs off the ball, make runs into forward areas. Now this is all well and good, because let's say Sofyan Amrabat inverts, next to Casemiro, Dalot's going to play a little bit deeper, suddenly we've got a 3-2 shape which looks like this, alright? Or we're going to say, like we saw against Crystal Palace, Sofyan Amrabat drops a little bit deeper into the back three, maybe Dalot inverts, we've got a 3-2. Now on paper, you can sit here and say this is a good structure. United have a good structure here because they're in a 3-2-5. They can outnumber the first phase, they can outnumber the midfield because they've got a box in midfield, but also a front five to attack with. So on paper it looks quite good. However, it's not just about the structure, it's about timing of movements and understanding of movements. Because what we're seeing at the moment is that United quickly push a front five forward, and it kind of leaves these deeper players a little bit abandoned. Now Mason Mount went some way to addressing that against Crystal Palace by dropping out wide. But ideally, I'd like to see United players doing it in the middle area of the pitch. Now, some of the reason we're not seeing this is because United don't have ball carriers. Someone who can drop into this area, kind of drop a shoulder and beat his man and carry the ball forward, or provide a bit of skill in the middle. Again, Mason Mount is the closest thing to it at the club, but we're seeing it in wide areas at the moment. United need to find a way to drop deep in the middle of the park and connect the pitch. The pitch is far too disconnected at times, and I'm struggling to see why Erik ten Hag isn't addressing this. Now, of course, some people will say, but you need to push players forward to pin the opposition back, and that is the case to a large extent. But if you're going to do that, you don't need 5 players to do it initially. If you are going to do it, have a striker which drops a little bit deeper, a bit more of a false 9. Not what Rasmus Højlund does, he pushes forward instead. So if United are going to push their striker high, their 2 wingers pretty high, and their midfielders, you're pinning the back 4 back, which is all well and good, but you're now really sacrificing central progression in deeper areas. United only need really 3 players to pin this back 4 back because they're that good. Someone like Marcus Rashford and Rasmus Højlund are that good and that threatening that 3 players is enough to pin the opposition back. If United do this and move their midfielders a little bit deeper, not only will they progress the ball better from deeper areas, but they'll actually be more dangerous in the final third as well. Because when a player like Marcus Rashford gets the ball, rather than Mason Mount already being in this position, which makes it quite easy for the opposition to understand where players are, yes, they're still outnumbered, which of course is always going to make life difficult, but it's more difficult when players are running into these situations, rather than when they're already standing there. We saw the perfect example of it against Palace in the Carabao Cup last week, when Dalot was arriving onto the ball, rather than starting there in the wide area. He was much, much more dangerous than what we saw at the weekend, where United had pushed players forward too early, which is again causing problems. The other problem is that these players go back to old habits when things go bad, and what we saw particularly in the second half against Palace the other day was United just lofting balls forward, little chipped balls forward up towards the forward line, where you're basically hoping one of the passes comes off, or you might be able to get on the second ball which comes down and play from there. That is not an attacking tactic. That's not how top teams play football in the modern day. So that's another issue which United need to address. This patience on the ball has to be there. Currently, it isn't. United also have issues out wide as well. Now, the big issue is, on the right wing, United have no proper experienced senior right wingers currently at the football club. Sancho is out with personal reasons. Antony now returning to the squad, which I think will be a huge boost for United if he is allowed to play. Because Facundo Pellistri, you know, as much as he's impressed from the bench this season, he's been given his chance, which we all asked for, and rightfully so, he's been given his chance, hasn't really taken it, hasn't really delivered, so I think it's time for change there. But also Marcus Rashford, his decision-making on the left-hand side just isn't good enough. But also the problem with Rashford is that he isn't a traditional left winger. So it's all well and good him starting out here, I think he's more than capable of doing that, but eventually he always wants to come inside. This doesn't really work with Sofyan Amrabat being your left back, because Amrabat wants to play in these deeper areas and dictate the play, rather than overlapping. He'll do it on occasion, as will Mason Mount. But I really feel like Marcus Rashford is missing Luke Shaw in the side currently. Now, granted, Shaw had a horrible start to the season, but he has a brilliant understanding with Marcus Rashford in the final third. He has a brilliant ability to progress the ball, cross balls into the box, carry the ball forward. He brings a lot to his side, and I think Rashford is suffering as a consequence of that. So let's now add all of that up in possession and kind of show us what it's leading to. So first of all, we got in deep areas when Lindelof and Raphael Varane play together, which looks like it might be the case at the moment. The two of them are not really great ball progressors. Raphael Varane is good at progressing the ball via the carry, stepping forward with the ball, but not really his passing, and Lindelof at the moment isn't progressing the ball at all really, as we saw in that graphic earlier. We've then got the issue of Casemiro in midfield, doesn't make himself available often enough. He also doesn't scan well enough, which means he's often losing the ball in these areas. But also, when he does get the ball, he wants to force the ball forward far too much and turn over possession. Something which these deep players are doing in general, lofting the ball forward and it's coming straight back. The next issue we had was that United don't have players in the midfield which want to drop deep and dictate the play. Get 100 touches, control possession, be metronomic on the ball, control the tempo. Could Amrabat be the solution to that? The next problem is that the central midfielders are often, granted not always, if you watch a game you'll see plenty of situations where they do drop deeper, but you also see plenty of situations where they push forward too early. And we're seeing disconnect in the United team because there's becoming these massive gaps between the defence and the midfield to the attack. The gap is becoming too big and it's stopping United from getting on the ball and controlling possession. If you look at Bruno Fernandes against Palace at the weekend, for example, he was so quiet. He just didn't really get much of the ball at all, and that's because he's being pushed forward too early. So these players need to drop deeper. We've then got our wide problem of Facundo Pellistri just having pretty much zero impact at the moment. There's almost no attacking threat coming down this side. And then Marcus Rashford down the left-hand side, who is always a threat, always beating his man, but it looks like he's missing his friend Luke Shaw, really getting the best out of him from an attacking point of view, but also his decision-making has been really subpar in the final third, genuinely hasn't been good enough, and he has to sharpen up. But what does all of this lead to? It leads to a real lack of chances being created in the middle for Rasmus Højlund. Manchester United's young, big money striker who's meant to come in and be this box presence, sniff out chances in the penalty area and put them into the back of the net. United are not creating chances for him, which means essentially United are playing with 10 men because Rasmus Højlund isn't someone who wants to constantly drop into these areas. He pushes into the final third, like Erling Haaland does for Manchester City. The difference is Haaland is created a bag full of chances, which means he scores a lot of goals. Rasmus Højlund is getting a kind of a half chance a game, if that really at the moment, and it's not through lack of his movement, it's a lack of good structure and creativity around him. Now, whose fault is this? It's the players and it's Ten Hag. Ten Hag has to do a better job of coaching them, kind of get those bad habits out of their game where they're forcing the ball forward. That has to be coached out of them. And if players do force the ball forward too much, they need to be taken out of the side. Individually, players need to make better decisions. Casemiro has to make better decisions on the ball. Facundo Pellistri on the right-hand side has to do a little bit more. Marcus Rashford on the left-hand side, decision-making has to be a lot better. We need to see more from Victor Lindelof and also Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes, although with them I think it's more about giving them time to generate an understanding. But like I said, all of this is leading to a lack of creativity in the final third, which is leading to a lack of chances, which leads to just 7 goals scored in 7 Premier League games, which we know is not enough for Manchester United as a football club. So, there you go. You guys have asked what is the problem with the Manchester United attack currently. Now I've told you. Hopefully we can maybe look into some solutions tomorrow in the live stream, so join the live stream for that, get notifications on so you don't miss it. But yeah, a lot of you have asked, why can't United score? Why aren't United scoring enough goals? Hopefully now you know. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think these are the main problems? Is there also another big problem that I've missed? For example, the standard of crossing at the football club is absolutely horrendous. The set pieces aren't very good. Those are, of course, other methods which United could use to score more goals. Let me know if you have any other reasons as well why United aren't scoring, what players you'd like to see brought into the side to maybe add to the attacking output, and also just your general thoughts. Let me know all of that in the comments down below. But apart from that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.